Hey dudes, and welcome to the Leftover Culture Review, and welcome to a very special Halloween episode. It's that time of the year where we dim the lights, hide our candy from our parents so that they don't give it out to people at the door, and keep a spare change of underwear in the back pocket, just in case. We have got an absolutely jam-packed Halloween party episode, which I absolutely love doing because I really appreciate you guys spending a bit of your Halloween here with me, and I love throwing a bit of a party, even if I'm the only one here. So we got plenty of stuff to get through. We are checking out some tiny zombies. We are designing or redesigning some bad box art. Not saying we're going to make it any better. We've got some action figures to check out. We're going to tell some ghost stories. And at the end, we're going to make our very own monster. Can't wait to get started. So let's go. Leftover Culture Review. During the 2000s, Capcom released a Resident Evil game for mobile phones. Actually, they released a whole bunch. Some of them took inspiration from different Resident Evil games, and others like Genesis in 2008 just straight up took the plot from the first Resident Evil game and smashed it onto a mobile phone, scaling it down with plenty of amazing boss fights, puzzles, things to discover, enemies, and of course, absolutely terrible dialogue.
Jill, Wesker and I were talking, and we saw the tentacles in the hallway retract into the ground. Did you kill the plant?
I've never been a very good gardener. Every plant I've tended seems to die. I guess this one is no exception.
Oh really? Just the usual tender love and care.
And about a kilo of weed killer.
I mean, it's exactly what you'd expect from Resident Evil. Even the fighting system works really well being scaled down, requiring quick aiming, and it makes it feel like every time you enter a room, there's a sense of tension. You don't know if there's going to be zombies there to pounce on you, or a puzzle to solve, or a boss to beat. But in 2006, a series of 4 titles called Confidential Report were pushed out to mobile phones, titled File 1 through to File 4. Confidential Report built the story by using clues, reports, and investigations, allowing players to find out for themselves what happened when the Umbrella facility exploded, unleashing a horde of monsters and undead creatures onto Raccoon City. The Confidential Report game introduces 2 new characters following their progress through each title. Tyler is a Raccoon City police officer on his first day of the job, and Naomi, an FBI agent, on the hunt to uncover the truth behind Umbrella's experiments. This game takes that survival horror approach and scales it way down to work on mobile. Unlike other games, even other mobile Resident Evil games, Capcom decided to go full-on turn-based fighting. Every movement, every combat situation, it turns into turn-based fighting mode, which is great if you need to put your phone down because no one's going to attack you. What is not so great though is that when there are lots of enemies on the screen, you need to wait for each enemy to take its turn before you get back to your turn. And again, you never know what you're in for when you enter a room. Are you going to find some fresh ammunition or rations, or are you going to enter a room full of rotting corpses? You just got to equip yourself as best as you can, work out which weapons have plenty of ammunition left, and when things get a little bit desperate, you can always bust out your trusty knife. One thing that is kind of brutal with this game is that if you die, you go back to the start screen. There's no just picking up where you left off and facing the boss again, and once you die, you're dead. The save states in the game work, but they only work to continue the game if you're still alive, like if you had to put down your phone or something. So, yeah, truly terrifying. But it is a fantastic way to take some Resident Evil on the go with you, and it's so easy to hide from mum when I'm supposed to be doing chores.
Bruiser, I hope you're cleaning your room.
Yes, Mum, of course.
If it's not absolutely spotless, we're not going trick-or-treating.
But before I clean my room, don't get worried. I wanted to play a game with you. Actually, it's going to be hard for you to play because I can't hear what you're saying, but I've got the Goosebumps storytelling card game. This pack contains 54 cards filled with story prompts. The aim of the game is everyone sits around, you've got the deck of cards in the middle. One by one, each player picks up a card, adds a phrase to the story, puts the card down. Next player picks up the card, recites the story, adds their phrase to it, puts their card down. And the player who gets the story wrong is out. You continue until you run out of cards or players or everyone gets bored and goes to do something else. But you don't have that option because you are watching me tell you a spooky ghost story. So here's the plan. We're going to draw 5 cards from the Goosebumps storytelling card game, and tonight we're going to make up our own Goosebumps story. Just don't try to get too scared. I don't want to deal with crying here on the Leftover Culture Review. So those are the instructions. We don't need them. These are the kinds of cards you can get. They're all kind of story prompts. Broken glass, pizza, kid brother, zombie frog, full moon, peanut butter pup. There's a whole bunch of different prompts. Screaming. As I sat on the toilet, I heard screaming echoing through the entire house. Even the porcelain under my butt felt like it was shaking. Fog. As the screaming grew louder and louder, it felt like the water in the toilet bowl was starting to mist and turn into a fog. The entire bathroom felt like it was a swamp. Cave. That's when the toilet caved inwards and created an incredible hole through my bathroom floor that I fell through. Rats. As I fell down into that hole under my house, the porcelain that was cracked fell on top of me. I could feel rubble against my fingertips as I reached around trying to work out where I was, and I could feel rats scurrying below me. Glasses. As I was reaching frantically around in the dark, covered in toilet water, porcelain, and rats, I felt a pair of glasses. I could feel the glass, the metal, the frame, and that's when I realized that's where I left my glasses 3 years ago after school. That's our story for tonight. I hope it didn't give you too many chills. But seriously, this is a great game to play either on your own or with friends. Some really cool cards, and I hope that you'll be back to play the Goosebumps storytelling card game with me again sometime.
Hurry is the game master! They've got enough games to keep your fragile little mind occupied until the next millennium!
How well is Doom going to convert from the PC to the 32X?
Converting Doom from the PC to 32X was a really smooth transition. The game remained pretty much the same.
But the graphics, are they going to be there?
Graphics are there, the speed's there, everything's there.
So before my dad left for work this morning, he looked me square in the eye and he said, "Bruiser," he never actually called me son. "Bruiser, there are so many video games out there in the world. So many of them have terrible box art." And, to cut a long story short, we made a blood pact right there on the kitchen table that I would redesign 5,000 video game box art covers. And because I love and respect you guys, I thought I'd get started tonight for Halloween by looking at a game, Haunting, by Electronic Arts, starring Polterguy. Actually, I don't hate this box art, and when I say, I know the segment's called Bad Box Art, but there's a lot of things I do really like about this box art, but I thought it'd be fun to look at what works and what doesn't work and take a crack at redesigning our very own cover for Haunting. So first and foremost, we have Polterguy up there at the top, the title starring Polterguy, the couch with the lips, and the Sardini family running for it. You play as Polterguy, he's there at the top. The dad, Vito Sardini, his manufacturing company made some faulty skateboards, which ended up getting your character, Polterguy, killed. And this is a really fun game. Like, you go around the house possessing and haunting different objects to try and scare the Sardini family out of town. It's like back when Electronic Arts was still making cool games in 1993. And there's a lot of things, like I said, that I like about the box art, including the illustration. I love the concept of the couch. It's soft, it's warm, it's cozy. When you think about like a family house, it's a very safe item that you'll find in a lot of them, and it's where people come together and bond and hang out. So I'm going to use that. What I don't like, though, are the lips look totally different to the other styles of illustration used for Polterguy and the Sardini family. We also have the title Haunting, which has this really cool drippy letter effect, but not enough contrast. It's very easy to see Electronic Arts at the top and starring Polterguy because they have white text on black background, but Haunting kind of, with the gradient, blends in. So we're going to look at how to make that really pop, make Electronic Arts and starring Polterguy not be the focal point for me, and we're going to work on redesigning that couch. So I'm using a program called Adobe Dimensions, released in 1992. It lets you take vector shapes and objects and transform them into 3D shapes and objects by extruding them and adding bevels. After the final version of Adobe Dimensions was released in 1997, it was discontinued, and a lot of that toolset, those features, are now found in Illustrator, which is still cool, but Adobe Dimensions just has this really fantastic early 3D look to it, which I absolutely adore. So we're going to tackle making that couch first and set out some of the basic shapes for it, try and add a mouth and a tongue in, and doing it in 3D it's kind of cool to see it all come together. What I also want to attempt is having like an element of Polterguy in there. I don't want to try and redesign the whole character in 3D, but I kind of thought taking some of that face, like the eyes and the brow, it might look kind of cool trying to match that up with the couch so that the box art kind of looks like a face, which I think is very striking. And again, I'm not saying that I'm using these programs all that well or that I know exactly what I'm doing. This is more like a wild, weird experiment right here for Halloween. Once I've kind of got my design down in Dimensions, I'm going to take that graphic and bring it over into Illustrator to add the text. Now, Illustrator is great for putting text on a bit of a curve, laying out, finding the composition for the box that we want to create. And I'm also going to add my very own custom drippy looking letters. And once I'm kind of happy with how it looks in Illustrator, I'm going to bring that version into Photoshop. So in Photoshop, we've got tools like Liquify that's going to let me make those letters look a little bit more drippy and also add some shape and warping to that couch to try and make it look a little bit more energized, like it's alive. And you know what? I don't hate what we've come up with yet. Like I said, even though the segment's called Bad Box Art, I don't think this is terrible box art. The last thing I didn't like was the border, so we kind of eliminated that with our design as well. A border says to me that we've got all these great elements like Polterguy, the title, the couch, the family, but we don't know how to make it fit in this shape. So we're going to add a border and we're going to make everything fit in using a border. So we don't have that anymore. We've got Haunting, even though, yes, I do make mistakes. I accidentally thought the game was called The Haunting, starring Polterguy, and I didn't pick up on that until I started recording. So, I don't know, it's hard to believe. Even I make mistakes sometimes. But I kind of like how this version turned out. And like I said, Dimensions does a fantastic job bringing those really early looking 3D generated images right to your fingertips.
shall all die.
So Sega managed to create an absolute monster with House of the Dead, a light gun game so good you can still check it out in arcades decades later. And they had some absolute classic zombies to go with it. You've got Strength, Hierophant, and the ones we're checking out today, Johnny and Ken. They have some really boring zombie names. Actually, checking out the enemy list from House of the Dead, there are a lot of boring names for the zombies. Steve, Bob, Patrick, David, Peter, no offense if those are your names, but released in the year 2000, Palisades launched a line of House of the Dead figures based off the first two games, giving gamers the chance to play with their favourite zombies when Mum forces them to go to Best and Less to pick out new socks. Each of the figures came packaged with a weapon, a base plate, and for Johnny and Ken, we get some of the smaller, weaker enemies from the game. Ken comes with the mirror worms, worms that feed on the corpses in the game until they see you. And Johnny comes with the Borrow Frogs, leaping from dark, wet places to surprise the player. The detailing on these figures is absolutely spot on, bringing the characters to life, but also giving us some of those iconic, smaller enemies to play with as well. I also really love how the base plates, they actually look like they could come out of a House of the Dead level. It not only gives you a cool way to display the figures, but it really ties it into the video game series. So, the time has come for the main event. We are making a monster. I've been secretly going out at night into the backyard and digging up human remains, or really whatever else I could find. So far, we have got a basketball, some Tarzos, which are great, they're like buried treasure, and some totally realistic human bones. So I try and hook all this crap up and turn it into a monster. Why don't you check out how you can make your very own monster at home using Monster Maker Ultra Edition for Mac and PC.
Oh, it's you! Wow, Black Billy!
Released in 1997, this wicked program lets you live out your Dr. Frankenstein nightmares, crafting your perfect beast to unleash on the world. Working in the lab with Dr. Lizard Lips, you'll have access to a bunch of pieces and parts and colours to build your very own monster.
Excellent!
And seriously, the fun is just getting started because there are a whole bunch of mini games within the castle to let you put your monster through its paces. The game includes the ability to make music, take photos with your monster, but also pit it up against other creations to see how it does. How good's your monster's karate? Let's find out. How well does it do on a jet ski? Well, there's a race. How about you hop on and test it out? And you can also find different letters in a maze to spell words. I guess that's like a test of its intelligence.
What a champ.
You can set your monster's emotions, see how it animates differently, if it's angry, if it's sad, if it's happy.
Scram! Pass, you dirty rat! Bug off!
And at the end of it all, you have the opportunity to take a photo of your monster to print out so that you've got a copy of your monster forever and ever that you can hang up on your wall and admire when you fall asleep.
Monster, do you like to gaze at the stars and dream about a worm's belly?
None of your business.
The game comes from a studio called Amazing Animations, and I think that's really the strength of Monster Maker, is that you can see all the bits and all the parts of your monster move and wiggle and animate. I kind of really dug making a slime guy just because every piece of that slime is like wiggling and moving. It's a blob, it's a monster, dude. And I know that the game is targeted for probably people younger than I am, but there are so many pieces to pull together your very own monster. It's obvious that Dr. Lizard Lips wasn't just looking in his backyard. He was pulling parts from like sponges and slime and growing mold and robots. And so yeah, there is a whole bunch to check out. Really, I love the illustration in this game and the animation looks fantastic. Just don't get so distracted that you miss out on something important, like cleaning your room or going out trick-or-treating or my monster. What have I done? What have I done now? It's amazing! My very own monster come to life. Actually, I kind of like the one I made in Monster Maker a bit better. This looks kind of dumb. And I hope you guys had fun designing your own monsters too. What an absolute blast we've had. I absolutely love Halloween and I absolutely appreciate you guys tuning in and spending some of your time here with me as well. Hopefully your monsters turned out a little bit better, and I really hope that you stay safe out there trick-or-treating, because I need you back next time for some more leftover culture. Before you guys go, if you do want to check out some more spooky retro games right here on the channel, you'll find a whole bunch of episodes. And if you enjoyed the Goosebumps story stuff, I've actually got a whole bunch of Goosebumps horror stories over on the Leftovers channel for you dudes to check out right now. You gonna say goodbye? What's a really boring monster name? Jim. You gonna say goodbye to Jim? Farewell from the leftover culture review.